This was the most highly requested project I've ever had. I fought this project, but it finally caught up with me. I had tons of people messaging me that they wanted me to build a Baby Yoda puppet. And I thought, why bother? Why bother making it when everyone else is making their own versions of plushes and toys and drawings and stuff? What, does the world really need a Krutinger Baby Yoda puppet? Clearly the answer to that was yes. But it took 2 realizations for me to convince myself. First of all, why am I fighting something that I love? I love Star Wars. I am a humongous Star Wars fan since I was a little kid. But here was the real factor that convinced me. Every time I build a puppet, I try to do something different with it for myself. I try to make every puppet into some sort of a learning experience for me. And one thing I've been wanting to do a lot more on this channel is mechanical puppets. Puppets with levers and mechanisms inside them to get different types of movements. So I thought Baby Yoda is the perfect type of character to experiment with some of these techniques. Now I have done all of these mechanisms before. I've done a moving mouth mechanism, I've done an ear mechanism, and I've done eye blink mechanisms before. Even the head tilt mechanism I've done. But what makes this one different is having all those mechanisms into one puppet. It's easy enough to make one mechanism in a puppet, but really having them all boondoggled together and still work fluidly is another whole separate skill. That's what I wanted to tackle with this project. And we're gonna talk Star Wars theories. Crazy theories. Stick around to the end to hear those. Now let's just jump into it. So the first thing I want to show you is the head movement. Because it's just a pull through that hole, I can get some really nice head movement like this. He can kind of look down a little bit. I can have him look straight up ahead. But again, I put this trigger in the back on this rod. So now when I push down on this trigger, it can actually turn the head up. That's what this pivot point is right here. So just by hitting this button, I'll give you a closer up of that button there. So just pushing down on this is what moves that head up and down. Like that. This little lever right next to it, when I do that down, that is what controls his eye blinks, like that. Pretty cool, huh? There is a trigger here, and that does his mouth operation. And this controller here is a really cool thing. It's going to be one of the arm rods a little bit later, coming out of this part. But in the meantime, when I squeeze this lever, that's what's gonna control his ears. So all together, this guy is gonna be really alive in so many different ways. Okay, here he is. next, I completely sculpted all the foam on here, and I just added all this, all these forms up here on top of his head. We've been calling them Baby Yoda Grandpa Forehead abs. So that's where they are. And we've continued it down into his eyebrows here a little bit too, give it a little bit more form. His nose is done, it is sculpted, it is right here. And when this is on, it looks super cute. However, since we're about to cover this with fleece, this is gonna be a separate piece that's covered. But as you can see, all the mechanisms still work great. There's the mouth movement. We've got our head movement here that looks really nice. We've got our eye blink movement, and of course our ear movement here. So after this fleece head is covered, then I'm going to move on to creating the ears out of foam and fabric. Now let's take a closer look at that puppet. Okay, so here's another look at him. Now, one thing that people were asking me is why I decided to make the ears move in rather than moving up and down this way, which is more like they do on the show. And the reason is for that, because this is more, I mean, this isn't a replica of that puppet. This is definitely a more Muppety cartoon style version of him. And I felt like the ears coming in this way made it look more like he would be falling asleep rather than if they just went up or down. Now I'll show you some of the mechanics with this jacket partially off here so you can see what's going on a little better. Now, when you're designing these mechanisms, the first thing you always want to think about is how is this puppet going to be used? Now, I have not designed these mechanisms to be used for traditional puppetry style. Typically, film puppetry is done over your head looking at a monitor. And this would be kind of uncomfortable to perform over my head because of the way the trigger is styled. I have another puppet over here. This old mech character that I built is very comfortable to perform over your head because of the way it sits in the palm of your hand like this. And these are all pretty much very similar controls. This mechanism for the mandibles is the same mechanism as Yoda's ears. And this character also has a head tilt. But since I can hold it like this, it's very easy for me to hold up above my head. But this puppet is held like this. And the controls held like this aren't as comfortable over your head. You can see the way that my wrist is bending. It'd be more comfortable if it was positioned something more like that. That would be very easy to hold up. But the reason I designed it this way is because I know I'm not doing shows with this guy. He's a copyrighted character. This is not my character to perform with. I designed it to be animated sitting on a table because I know anytime I'm using this, it's just gonna be a demo for people on how mechanized puppets work. Whether I'm at a maker fair or a Comic-Con or other types of live events where people wanna see how the puppets move. And in those circumstances, it would be awkward and uncomfortable for me to hold this puppet over my head to show them. So because because of that, I designed it to be used in a way that's most comfortable for how I plan to use it, especially with a character that's so small. And like I said, if he's sitting on a table and someone walks up to the table, it's cute for him to be able to look up at them like that. I thought that would be really effective. Special shout out to my fellow YouTuber, Uncle Jesse, who has an awesome 3D printing YouTube channel. He helped me out by sending me some reference photos of some Baby Yodas that he 3D printed. If you click right here, you can see a video that he did on all the ones that he's printed. Also, special thanks to my good buddy Disney Dan. We're working on another collaboration as well, so stay tuned for that. Now here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. My fan theories of the Mandalorian. And here's the big question is, what's gonna happen to the Baby Yoda character? What can happen? He's a baby. What can you even do with a baby character other than like be adopted and do a big time jump to like 100 years later when he's like old enough to be able to talk and do more intricate things? What is Star Wars going to do with a baby? They don't use babies that often. Even in the Phantom Menace, they started off with Anakin as a little kid, because what would they do with a baby? Queen Amidala had twin babies. And then what's the next time we see that baby? Grown up as a teenager, because what do you do with a baby? That's why I think that Baby Yoda is not a baby. I think he's playing a trick on the characters in The Mandalorian. Now you might think, hey Adam, that sounds pretty crazy. Why would he play a trick? But think about it. Think about the first appearance of the real Yoda. In Empire Strikes Back, the first appearance of Yoda, he was played off as a goof. Remember, he was rummaging through Luke's stuff, eating his food, playing tug-of-war with R2-D2, and literally mocking Luke about whining to get his ship out of the mud.
Why don't you just get your ship out?
He's portrayed as a crazy goofball.
R2.
But then, moments later, you find out he is the most powerful Jedi that has ever existed, with more wisdom than any other character in the Star Wars universe. Look at that juxtaposition. I think they're doing the same thing with this character. I think that Baby Yoda is not a baby at all. But you might ask, why is he in a crib? Why is he acting like a baby? He's trying to get away with something. He's noticing that people take care of a baby. And if he acts like a baby, he'll be protected and get a free ride.
Be careful with him.
He's essentially a 40-year-old living in their parents' basement. That's what I think he is.
My problem is I got a 50-year-old lust and a 3-year-old dinky.
And you might think, oh, Adam, that's absurd. That's absurd. Like, what makes you think he's older than he is? Just watch carefully. Look how he uses the Force. A baby can't use the Force. Even little Anakin in the Phantom Menace, his midichlorians, which let's not even get into that, but his Force levels were off the charts, and he still couldn't use the Force with intent. It allowed him to do some amazing things like pod racing and other things like that, but he was never able to put his hand out and use it with intent. And not to mention, he was a little kid too. He wasn't a baby. And yet, this Baby Yoda, this child, is able to use the Force with intent, lifting up a rhino. And all these other crazy things he's doing. So here's what I think is gonna happen. At some point, the Mandalorian is going to do something to Baby Yoda that you would only do to a baby. Whether it's, feed him a bottle or change his diaper.
Doesn't your dad have some diapers upstairs? Whoa.
Or something weird, okay? And then what's gonna happen is the Baby Yoda is gonna be like, whoa, get off me type of moment. And then it's just gonna be this breaking of character moment where it clicks that this character is not what we expected.
You come clean, you little punk. Who are you? We took you in, thought you were a child in need. You turned out to be a low-life thief.
And that's gonna switch the dynamics of this entire show and their relationship. Because if that's what happens to this character, there's actually a lot you can do with it. This character all of a sudden has different wants, needs, and desires than we expected. It can change the trajectory of the whole story in a really entertaining way. So here's what I think is gonna happen. They're gonna have that moment where he breaks character of being a baby. We find out all of a sudden that this character is much older than we thought. And I bet you this show is gonna turn into a buddy cop show. Two unlikely heroes on a journey together, going through all sorts of weird obstacles that can only really be accomplished because of how different they are. And I bet you they're gonna get something really unexpected for Baby Yoda's voice, someone like Neil Patrick Harris, which would be awesome. So that's my theory. Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and may the Force be with you.